Alright, and welcome to our game in number 1 of this best of 2. It's RYUNG in the bottom left. Of course, in the top right, you do have the best Zerg in Europe currently, Kaizi Gaming's Reynor. It's always a bit weird with the WTL intros, just kind of hopping right into them. But hello, everybody. Hello, YouTube. I am TitanOnFire, and we do have a wonderful few sets here from today's replay of the World Team League. I believe this was today or yesterday. I'm trying to remember if this was Sunday. No, I think it was Saturday matches. Regardless, we are going to be starting here with Kaizi versus GP. Of course, we're headed kind of into the middle of it. You know, there were some interesting matches before this. Well, there was one interesting match before that, which was actually Cham facing off against Spirit. And as you can see there in that scoreline, that did end up being a 1-1 scoreline in that set of 2. That Zerg versus Terran. It was actually quite entertaining. I got to catch a little bit of it as I was kind of just scrubbing through the VOD, looking here for the matches that we were going to be covering. So we are going to be heading into Reynor versus RYUNG, 1-1 for the team league. And between these two players, of course, I have high hopes for this matchup. As I kind of said, Reynor right now, I think undisputedly the best Zerg in Europe. Has been on a tear in DreamHack. 3-0 Showtime, 3-1 Serral, 3-0 Clem is now waiting in that grand finals for his opponent, which I believe is going to be Clem by the time this is uploaded. I'm sure that has potentially concluded already, but it's going to be it's going to be an amazing matchup there in that ZVT. But we've already just seen that Reynor's form right now it's pretty monstrous. It's like Reynor has always been one of the scariest Zerg players, one of the scariest players to play against in the world. You know, up there, I would say. I mean, you have to consider him up there with a player like Dark or Rogue, who can always be super aggressive, bring out an amazing macro. As interesting, we do have these first few lings here poking out. Gonna try and delay this command center, but you got a few Marines here, and that does mean that, hey, that's not gonna happen. But especially considering Reynor's current form, and I will eventually loop this back to the matchup that we are seeing in the ZVT. I think it's going to be a very tall order here for RYUNG. Now, RYUNG, of course, is kind of an innovator in Terran builds. He is, I would say right now his best matchup I would always consider to be his Terran versus Protoss. That's the one where I think RYUNG has had the most success, and it's the one where he's had the most variety in build orders. But RYUNG has always been a player that is able to come up with new timing attacks and new ways to kind of approach the game, and he's always very, very good at hitting them. And the discussion always when it comes to RYUNG is, you know, the fact that he's always had the brains for coming up with these builds and, you know, kind of getting everything. Ooh, that Ling is gonna make it out. It looks like the Reaper. Oh, the great escape, the Reaper. He's found his way onto the low ground. The Queens, I think with the Ling though, yeah. Okay, at least gets the Ling here. RYUNG just being annoying. Did manage to type 2 Lings though with that Reaper, and then just gets on out of dodge. Of course, also stopped that early pressure from Reynor that was trying to delay the command center and kept that SCV alive, which is the really big part. Just making sure that you don't lose anything to that early attack. But anyway, these players, they don't want to let me talk. I was meandering on my way eventually to a decent point. But RYUNG has always been a player that has had the mind for the build orders and for this game and coming up with strategies. But it was always the execution where it was a little bit, wasn't able to, I think, to make it work as well as he would like. And so that's, of course, where you saw Maru come in and would apply a lot of the ideas that RYUNG was messing around with. And, of course, that's a friendship that has been very beneficial to, I think, the both of them. But we finally start to see RYUNG step it up. He's really started to, I think, hit his stride. All of his matchups, I think, have improved greatly. And it's really been great to see RYUNG step up and start to really make, you know, consistently, I think the past 2 GSLs he's made it into now. His IEM Katowice run, of course, where I believe he went instead of, who was it, Armani? Was it Armani or Ragnarok? I think one of those Zerg players that couldn't make it to Katowice. But when you think about all that, of course, you then also have to consider that Reynor is a much different opponent than really anything that you're going to face in Korea. Of course, the difference between, you know, Korean Zergs and European Zergs is quite big, and even in that small sample size is, ooh, this is some nice pressure here from RYUNG. Is actually going to snipe 2 drones, gets the kill there on that Evo chamber, snipes a queen with the Liberator, which really should not happen, but the Liberator is just going to stick around now. He's going to force some repositioning on this Spore Crawler. Actually, he's going to potentially get another queen there. I would love to see the unit slots to know if that queen went down. Ooh, nice snipe on 2 of the creep timbers. And yeah, I think, okay, there were transfusions. So Reynor saves the second queen, but the Liberator is still going to be able to shark around to be annoying. But yeah, even within ZVT and really all matchups, Zerg playstyle is really different per player. Like, the way that Cero plays is completely different from the way that Reynor plays. And then even those 2 players within the mindset of saying, oh, well, this is how European Zergs play, is vastly different from how someone like Dark and Rogue and Ragnarok will approach the game. And so it's always interesting to see how they end up applying that to these matches. We're actually going to see a very, very nice Spore Crawler wall here from Reynor. Is just saying, listen, I don't want to deal with drops. They're annoying. And so I'm just going to be safe. I already have my 4th hatchery on the way. And Reynor is perfectly happy with the position that he's in, currently sitting at 69 drones. He's going to be adding on a few more, so he will be going to a slightly higher number. And we'll see how this ends up turning out here for RYUNG. And I think it's going to rely a lot on him kind of forcing pressure and creating opportunities through things like this double-pronged harass. He has some Hellions on one side. The dropships are going to try and go into the main, immediately see the Spore Crawlers and say, okay, maybe not the best idea. And that medevac will just back on up. But you have 1-1 on the way here for the Terran. Is 9 Marines being pumped at a time with the siege tanks. So RYUNG is going to be getting ready for a very, very strong army. You can see right now, I mean, it's already at 71 workers, which is a very, very healthy count here for the Terran. Infestation Pit also on the way for Reynor, who is getting ready for kind of a late game transition here already. I mean, Infestation Pit 748 has 1-1 on the way and is already going to, I mean, potentially be getting ready for adding on whatever tech that Reynor feels like. It could be Lurkers, could also just add on Vipers to help deal with the tanks, as the Hellions here are just going to clean up a bit of the creep spread, and RYUNG has been doing a good job keeping that to a minimum, as Marines here are going to find some queens, and this is going to be a nice snipe here for RYUNG. Just gets the 2. He's going to be able to clean up the creep on the right side of the map, and now going to stim on into this base. Just going to try and snipe the hatchery and should be able to get it. That is a lot of DPS coming through from those Marines. It's also a lot of screams as the WTL. The WTL has their their voices quite loud. And so you get to hear all those screams in their glory. But yeah, I mean, it's a decent trade there. You get a hatchery, and then also able to not lose as many Marines. You keep pretty much the whole drop alive, as we are now going to be seeing, I mean, RYUNG start to try and apply himself onto the map. Again, I think RYUNG right now hasn't been as proactive as you would probably like, because Reynor, as you can see, has a lot of vision. Has gone into the roaches early and has pretty much been able to completely keep RYUNG off his back using the roaches. It's been, I mean, the Marines stimming in the hatchery was the first bit of harassment aside from the queens going down, or the queen going down and the 2 drones early on. But other than that, it's been a very passive game for both these players. Neither of them have lost a lot, as this engagement, yeah, not exactly what you want to take. Clean up some of the Zerglings, and that's about it for RYUNG. But both players are starting to approach maxed out. Reynor has just gone there with 13 more drones being added on. He's going to go up. That's going to be 100 drones for Reynor, who's also going to be adding on a double Spire as well. So it's going to be Spire upgrades alongside the Greater Spire morphing in. So we're going to see a little bit of Broodlord actions. There we go. 100 drones for Reynor is going to drop back down to 99 as he adds on another Spore. Hatchery is canceled. But Reynor is expanding elsewhere, has already sitting at 5 bases, has a 6th on this right side of the map as well, but RYUNG is already swinging his units up towards this location, has tanks, actually has a few Hellbats with it as well because he didn't lose all of his Hellions early on in this game. Custer Shell on the way, 2-2 as well as RYUNG has to be careful. The splits, not the best, but honestly just has enough of an army that he can still take this location with the tanks, and that's going to be a hatchery that goes down. And we're finally going to start to see RYUNG be able to apply himself onto the map as another, I mean, the Banelings, oh, they just get so much damage. Isn't really going to matter, though. A lot of the bio still alive. The Roach is not able to clean it up by themselves, as RYUNG is going to try and just inch this position forward. Now it's 3 tanks set up on the top of this ramp. As reinforcements coming on in. Reynor going to be able to cut them off. The tanks not really supporting this position, as RYUNG is trying to take this fight, but I don't think it's actually going his way. He's going to have to evac the tanks, get them on out of dodge, and now his 3 tanks that are stranded is going to send back medevacs for them as well. But RYUNG getting a little bit aggressive there. Wanted to get the rally across the map and continue to take advantage of that position, but the tanks not able to support the units that were rallying in. Reynor recognizes that. Does a great job of collapsing, and now we're going to see Reynor push across the map. Of course, I don't think either player right now can really kill the other. I mean, RYUNG is sitting at a very, very healthy tank count. I'm not sure what it is at the current moment. I'm not entirely sure just how many tanks there are. I would love to see if we could get that unit's lost, but it's also 2-2 bio. It's +1 on the tanks that he does have, as so hard for Reynor to commit on in with the amount of tanks that there are. And RYUNG right now is just focusing on getting this 5th base up. Ghosts are being added on. That Greater Spire is now going to be morphing in as, yeah, there we go. We are going to get a shot of the resources lost at the very least. And it's pretty darn even, which of course is not a position that you really want to be in as the Terran. When you're trading evenly as a Terran in this matchup, it just doesn't feel good. It feels like the Zerg is going to be able to constantly outgrow you as Banelings are going to roll on in. Yeah, there we go. SCVs should be pulled, and ooh, split's not coming through. Command center is settled for by Reynor. He's actually going to be able to continue to push this location with the Roaches. RYUNG didn't bring over enough units to actually deal with this, as Reynor is just everywhere right now. Got the CC, and now just has Roaches stopping a command center from re-landing. A Ghost is going to snipe one Roach away. And a nice bro there is going to try and deny that command center from re-landing as long as possible. And Reynor is revealing there that he does have the burrow. Trying to get those Roaches just to waste a scan. Of course, still does have this one at the 4th base, which is going to be, I mean, more and more annoying for RYUNG. Does have 3-3 on the way, though, and it really can't be underestimated how strong 3-3 bio is, especially when you're looking at a Zerg who only just now got his 2-2 for his Zerglings and Banelings. It's still, I mean, the 3-3, the +3 armor, sorry, is obviously on the way as well. But it's not going to be the strongest ground army for Reynor. The bio could definitely trade a lot better as long as RYUNG manages to split and takes a good fight, then should be fine. But there we see a yoink from the Vipers that have been added on. Ooh, Snipe's not going to be able to go down. But now you have also Marines cleaning up a lot of creep here on the left side of the map. RYUNG was just waiting on this drop for a while. His personal cloaking on the way. Ooh, pickups are going to come through. That drop should be able to make its way on out. And still this Roach is just denying the command center. I don't know. I don't think RYUNG has actually tried to float over the CC just yet. But still, it's annoying that you're just losing that income. Right now, Reynor, 3,500 minerals per minute coming in for him. I mean, that's 1,000 more than your opponent. Of course, the Zerg, you expect them to be up in bases. But right now, sitting essentially 4.5 bases with the long distance mining to the, what is now 7? Painful. The 7 of Reynor, though, it's not a good sign for the Terran. Of course, this is the position where the Terran wants to get into, where you got tanks, you got Liberators and Ghosts, and you're saying, all right, I'm going to add on more command centers. But the issue always is, well, how much time is the Zerg going to give you? How aggressive are they going to be? Are they going to keep running units into your base? Into your army? Because right now, Reynor really isn't doing that. Reynor is actually very sitting back. He's trying to find trades, but he's not trading out units inefficiently. And that means that this Broodlord transition that is coming through is going to be alongside a very strong ground army. 3 Infestors being added on, 4 more Corruptors, and Reynor is going to be able to reach maxed out once more. And look at the upgrades that are coming through. I mean, for both players, Blue Flame Hellions, Infernal Pre-Igniter, or Internal Pre-Igniter, on the way. Zoun Banelings not finding the best connections. Snipe there onto a singular Roach. Ghosts have to be careful though not to push too far forward. It does take a few Bane hits to kill them, but still are not units you want to lose. And now the Broodlords have been spotted. So this is actually really, really good for RYUNG. Those Broodlords were being pocketed on that on those right side bases at the I believe it was the 3rd and the 6th of Reynor. Scans go down. Ghost's going to clean up some of these creep tumors just to try and get that creep spread back, but it's starting to get a little bit absurd as Reynor is now going to push the Broodlords forward. Has Spore Crawlers as well, has the Infestors, and is just going to, I mean, the 5th base really cannot, it's not going to be allowed to mine at this point in the game. The Broodlords just have such an amazing position to abuse with this high ground ledge. As RYUNG, what's going to be the plan? Well, he's going to establish a 6th base elsewhere on this map as, running into the rest of the Zerg army. Always not the best of options, but some good split backs, and honestly, the Baneling's not really finding good connections until the very end when the rest of the bio does just end up falling. RYUNG, of course, does still have a massive army. I mean, he's sitting at 107 army supply. Unfortunately, it's just not right here. It's just not right here. 6 SCVs are going to go down. Snipes onto the Ghosts. EMPs as well are going to be able to get the Infestors, but still you have to be so careful. The Spore Crawlers and the Overseers just catching out so many Ghosts, and RYUNG has lost so much here with these few fights. And even with the Thors coming through, I honestly don't know if that's going to be enough here for RYUNG. He's going to try and fight this, has a few Hellions to keep the Lings away. Oh, but, I mean, Reynor has just handled this game about as well as you can. A few snipes are going to go down. The Thors are on the map. I think they only have, if I'm not wrong, they only have +2 at the current moment. Yeah, it's not the best upgrades here for these Thors. Of course, they are the best option for RYUNG, but you're not going to get any bases on the right side of this map. Reynor is going to make sure of that. This command center has to lift on up. And it's just going to be continued production of the ground units for Reynor. It's just going to make sure that RYUNG essentially is not going to be allowed to take a fight. Oh, this lane run by is brutal. I mean, RYUNG already lost a... RYUNG already lost a lot, but 27 more SCVs going down. It's just gonna, make this game an even worse position. Of course, RYUNG is getting into the mech play, you know, and this is what we've seen from Maru. This is what we've seen from top-level Terrans, is that, hey, mech is just better in these late-game scenarios. It's the more efficient composition. But even if you're able to get into mech, you don't have any armor upgrades. You just have +2. +3 is on the way, but it's just... it's not really looking convincing right now. Of course, if RYUNG can find, you know, say a fight where, Thors absorb a lot of damage, and then they manage to snipe off the Vipers, and then the Overlords as well. You EMP the Infestors. But it's a lot of stuff that RYUNG is going to have to do in order to be able to find this fight, and let's see if he's going to be able to do it. Space should go down. We are going to see, I mean, you have the tanks as well protecting it. RYUNG has shifted essentially his entire army over to the left side of this map, as he's going to just try and stop this lane run by. Of course, wants to keep that orbital command center alive. The scans are just so useful. And there we go. Hatchery goes down. Marines are evacuated. And RYUNG, I mean, has done a good job, though, of approaching maxed out again, and is starting to build up a bank. Of course, the worry is you're starting to build up a bank, but your bank is nothing in comparison to that of Reynor's. 8,000, 8,000. There are 8 Thors now on the map. You have the 9 Ghosts as well, Liberators and tanks. I mean, in theory, it's everything that you want, but of course, it's going to come down to the execution. Right now, Reynor, I mean, has so much money that I think he can actually rebuild this army almost 3 times over. which is not a comfortable situation for the Terran. You don't want to have to win that many fights, as I mean, RYUNG is just going to look for a pathway back in this game. Is these larvae, they are so tanky. They are so tanky, and RYUNG says, well, the pathway to victory is going to be pushing. Has some tanks, they're going to inch their way forward. Has to be careful, though, because, I mean, Reynor can just always threat this counterattack, and he's just going to go for it. He says, listen, none of your army is here, is going to be able to blow up the command center, and this is, I mean, this is essentially RYUNG's last mining base. I think that was a bit of a mistake there on the burrow. The banelings aren't going to be wasted on a command center that doesn't need that to happen, and at this point, RYUNG is essentially going to be all in. There's no more macroing out of this position. You're on, what, a mining base with the half minerals left at the 3rd and 4th. The 5th has not been allowed to mine because there's still a Zergling that's stopping that building from landing. And it's just going to come down to this. I mean, Broodlords, Infestors, and Vipers, it's the army that you never want to see as a Terran, because you know how hard it is to fight into it. As RYUNG is going to start to take down bases, but again, you have to win so many consecutive fights, and look at all the banelings rolling on through. The ghosts are running away for their lives. The tank's going to find some decent connections, but the EMPs aren't coming through fast enough. And sure, Reynor's supply is dropping, but RYUNG's supply is also going down, and that is supply that RYUNG is not going to be able to rebuild. The Broodlords now coming through. They're going to clean up all the tanks. That's going to be GG, as it's going to be Reynor taking game number 1 for Kaizi Gaming. It felt like Reynor's just overall level of play is just a little bit better, for sure. And so, as we head into this game 2, we're going to see if RYUNG does change up his plans any. I mean, I really don't see it happening, though, is going to be the interesting part about it. But we'll see. We will see. Of course, Reynor, just a completely solid game, start to finish. There's really not too much to say about it. It was extremely well played from Reynor. A standard macro game, very straight up. Said, listen, I'm going to get roaches for defense early, and then I'm going to transition it eventually into Lingbane Roach, into the Broodlords on this map that is very good for those units. And it just looked extremely solid the whole way through. There's not really, I feel like, much of a chance for RYUNG in that game. And of course, we'll see if that ends up being switched up here. If maybe we see a bit more aggression from the Team GP Terran. We'll see. We'll see. It's really all going to be down to RYUNG, though, because if you're able to apply more pressure, then yeah, this should look a lot more clean. If you're able to, I think, find some damage, then this game potentially looks a whole lot different. But I think one of the main issues for RYUNG is, ooh, nice, actually really nice micro here by RYUNG. Is going to try and snipe as many of these Zerglings as possible. Should get a second. Ooh, not the third, though. But one of the main issues for RYUNG was you go for this, of course, 3cc opening. Is going for the same opening here again in this game, but your early pressure is pretty much limited to, all right, I found 2 drones and a queen. And then you're entirely relying on your mid-game pressure to find success as RYUNG in order to get yourself a lead in this game. And against a player like Reynor, of course, I don't really see that happening, as this drone is going to be delayed quite a bit. It's going to be slightly annoying there for Reynor. We'll eventually get it placed down on location. Just pushes the Reaper out with his queens and says, stop it. Just stop. But yeah, we'll see if there's any switch up in the plan for RYUNG. Now, we do have a tech lab going down. The starport will also be finishing soon. Potentially, it might just be the same opening, where we'll see the Liberator alongside the Hellions, but it looks like it might be that swap over. So we'll have the potential of Cloaked Banshees. It doesn't look like there's enough gas for that at the current moment. So yeah, it's just going to be the Banshees without Cloak for now for RYUNG. And Reynor's going to be sitting pretty for a little while here. It's not going to be, it's going to be a little bit, at least until RYUNG is going to be able to apply pressure onto his opponent right now. It's a situation where, as the Terran, you have these Hellions. You can try and push in. You can try and find damage into one. of these bases, but that's very reliant on your opponent messing up early on with their defensive positioning. Because if they do, then you're sitting pretty. You are very, very happy. And really, there's nothing wrong in the world. But if you commit in those Hellions and you don't manage to find damage, of course, you're going to end up pretty much losing a lot of your map presence that you would like to have. And so we will end up seeing if that's going to be, if we're going to see RYUNG with the ability to find that opening. If not, of course, there's a potential that it does get pretty annoying here for the Terran player to try and find any opening. But we'll see. We'll see. RYUNG so far not really finding too much success at all, though. Is trying to push back creep, of course, with these Hellions. That's about all he's able to do, though. And third base, of course, has gone down, but you're not even going to start saturating that just yet. You're still working right now on this opening for RYUNG, who is adding on his 2 additional barracks. Is actually going to be going up to 5 very, very quickly here. Adding on the tanks, adding on +1 and stim. It's overall just looking like a very, very standard game plan from RYUNG, and there's not much to talk about. So, you know, instead I'm going to talk about how dark this map is for some reason. I don't know if that's going to affect you guys that are viewing. I do apologize if it does. I don't know what is up with my browser, which is playing this. It's a bit weird. It's a bit whack. I tried to solve it between games, and I think I did for the most part, but it's still a bit whack, they might say, or as they say. But yeah, regardless, we are going to see this push here come through from RYUNG, and the creep sped by Reynor has been quite frankly ridiculous. As you saw there, has already gotten it past the halfway point of the map, and we're only, I mean, 6 minutes 30 seconds in. Yeah, when Reynor's allowed to do what he wants, it's pretty scary. Centrifugal hooks on the way, I believe. Does Lingbane already have? No. Yeah, the +1/+1 is just now starting. So Lingbane is still going to be operating on no upgrades as RYUNG looks for this push. It's going to be 1-1. It's going to be stim and combat shields, and actually catching out the queens here might be pretty big. Getting a lot of the transfusion energy off of the queens. Banelig's going to try and roll through, but they don't have speed just yet. Still have to wait another 10 seconds for that, and RYUNG doesn't even have the 1-1 with his push just yet. Is actually still waiting on those upgrades to come through. But he's going to try and find a position here with the tanks. Banelings now with speed. RYUNG, some good target fire. So about to knock them down. Has also managed to get rid of a lot of this creep as the queens are being aggroed forward. And ooh, look at this counterattack by Reynor. Is going to be able to find a tank there on the back end. Also going to dive into the third base and find a lot of damage onto this SCV line. It wasn't even that saturated. Still going to find the damage, but I mean, does that really matter? Because right now RYUNG is essentially pretty all in right now with this 5 racks. Uh-oh, Marines have been brought back. They tried to move out. Are going to get caught here by a few Banelings trying to take this fight. It's not the cleanest for RYUNG. Still, of course, has reinforcements coming. All of his income being put right now into this 5 racks production. Gets some, I mean, honestly, some decent splits there against the Banelings. The tank's still trying to support this push, but Reynor is setting up that surround for when RYUNG does commit on in. He's going to send a few lanes once again to find a counterattack, to find reinforcements. The queens are finally going to start to fall, though. As another tank joins, the 1-1 being targeted down. Here we go, though, Reynor. He's going to pull the trigger, has the flank already set up, has Banelings from every single angle. And Reynor just sets it up and knocks it down. As RYUNG's going to continue to try and stream units across this map and actually finding damage there. I mean, getting rid of the legs is going to try and get rid of some of the queens, but can't. There's just no energy left on these medevacs. And it feels like even though RYUNG is still going to try and make this work, Reynor has already defended the majority of this pressure. He's going to start to snipe down the medevacs as more Banelings are going to get morphed on in. The lane's looking for a surround. Banelings now going to roll on through as the tank is gone. The Banelings connect. Reynor is going to get the 2-0.